Hi guys, it's me Nikita and I'm back again with another video that I think is going to really influence each and every one of you who's planning to come into the UK in 2023. Now, the three biggest updates that I want to share with you, which you need to pay attention to right now, are the PSW, the Dependent Visa, and the possible Health and Care Worker Visa, or any of y'all who are planning to come as healthcare workers in the UK. So, if any of this is of interest to you, please do not forget to watch this video all the way to the end because there are really important updates that all of y'all need to know about. But before we move ahead, I would just like to say that if you haven't already followed me on Instagram, now is your turn, just so that you receive all of the daily and the weekly updates that I release on Instagram. And my handle is Physiotherapy in UK. For many of y'all who have been struggling with HCPC registrations, finding a job in the UK, or maybe even catering your sort of NHS application to NHS employers or to a private company, please do not forget that now is your chance to book a one-to-one session with me. And more information about this will be in my website, which the link I'm going to leave in the description box below, so don't forget to check that out. But diving right into today's content, let's just see what it is. So the first thing that is absolutely the most important thing to talk about is the student visa and the PSW visa. So as many of y'all are aware, Swella Braverman is the Home Secretary who has been trying to sort of limit the student visa and the PSW visa and the dependents that accompany students who plan to enter in the UK. Now, she has her own reasons, and I've made a video about this previously, which you can check out right here. But coming to the context of today's video, this is what Swella Braverman actually goes on to say. So, Swella Braverman has actually submitted a very detailed proposal to the UK Parliament, which says that she would like the post-study work visa to be reduced from a total duration of 2 years to 6 months. Now, for those of y'all who are unaware about what is a post-study work visa, let's break this down. So, the post-study work visa stands for, obviously, the PSW, which means that any person who completes their study in the UK will be given the opportunity to find a job in the UK. Now, it sounds pretty simple, right? So, the UK government last year launched this scheme in the view to sort of attract international students from all over the world. Now, obviously, anybody who completed a 1 year long master's program would be granted, or anybody who completed a bachelor's program as well would be granted a 2 year post-study work visa, and anybody completing a PhD would be granted a 3 year post-study work visa. Now, that meant that that particular individual or student living in the UK would be able to live in the UK for at least 2 to 3 years, dependent on what type of course they complete, and they would be able to look for a job. Now, this was a brilliant scheme which obviously attracted many international students over the course of the last 1.5 years. So essentially, what this scheme sort of did is it attracted students who stayed back and were then allowed to look for jobs for the next 2 years. Now, that was a brilliant move, but if students were, say, unable to find a job in the next 2 years when they were on their post-study work visa, they would be asked to leave the country, that is, leave UK and go back home. So let's just quickly see who are the sponsors. Now, as you are well aware, NHS is one of the biggest sponsors of the healthcare in the UK generally. But other than this, there are about 65,000 companies in the UK presently who are offering sponsorships. Now, I'm going to leave the list for all of them down in the description box below, so don't forget to check that out. But just in case you are not aware of what Swella Braverman is suggesting, she wants to say that the 2 year post-study work visa needs to be reduced to only 6 months. So that means that every student who will be coming in the UK will only have 6 months to find a job with sponsorship. Now, that means that if you do not find a job with sponsorship in the next 6 months after your course is over, you would be asked to leave the country and go back. You would be asked to leave the UK and go back home to your original country. So this was all about the first proposal that she had related to the PSW. Now, coming down to the second proposal, which is going to influence the dependent visas for students. So what Swella Braverman wanted to suggest is that she has recommended that the UK Home Office only would grant dependent visas to students when they study a research-based program at a postgraduate level. Now, that means that it's only eligible for people who are applying for their PhD programs and if they end up doing their master's programs for at least 2 years. So all of the dependents of students who are accompanying them for any sort of PhD program or master's program for 2 years would only then be granted dependent visas. Now, the reasons for this are again explained in my previous video, which I highly recommend you watch. So, why is Swella Braverman offering all of this advice to the UK Home Office or to the UK PM? So, what has happened initially, or even a few months ago, is that the UK's Prime Minister Rishi Sunak has actually asked Swella Braverman and the DFE. So, the DFE is like a governing body for the sort of higher education in the UK, to submit proposals on possibly how to reduce the immigration related to students. Now, the reason for this is because they had projected that they would like about 6 lakh students to enter the UK to study in the UK for higher education from abroad for the next sort of few years, that is until 2023. But UK actually went on to meet its target of 6,80,000 students just in 2023, that is within 1 year of opening the PSW visa. And so, because they've met their targets, they actually want to reduce or cap the number of students planning to come into the UK. Now, the silver lining to all of this bad news is that the DFE, that is the Department of Education, is actually opposing Suella Braverman's proposal in the parliament. So that means that they actually want to leave the PSW as it is. Now, coming down to the third sort of major update, and this is something that I really want to share with you all, is that there is a petition going on right now as of today, suggesting that they would like healthcare workers to be granted the ILR, which is similar to the indefinite leave to remain or the PR for the UK, in 2 years' time. Now, let me remind you all, in case you do not know about this, people who are on the general tier 2 visa, including the health and care worker visa, need to complete a total period of 5 years before applying for their indefinite leave to remain or the ILR. So if this proposal goes through, it really means that most of the healthcare workers would be able, including all of us, including physios, OTs, and everybody else who is on the shortage occupation list, would be able to get our ILRs within 2 years. Now, the sort of requirements for this is mainly because many healthcare professionals have been working under tremendous amounts of pressure over the last 2 years, especially with COVID. And obviously, the UK government has realized that, and they've also realized that they have a massive shortage of healthcare workers in the UK, which is why they've started the health and care worker sort of visa to bridge this sort of gap within the UK's healthcare system right now. Now, if you are not aware already, let me just remind you that countries such as Australia, New Zealand, and even Ireland acknowledge that the health and care workers contribute a lot to their sort of overall systems in these countries, and therefore they actually grant them PRs much quicker than the sort of regular residing population or those who are on their general work visas. So, therefore, somebody has actually put forward this petition, and right now, as you can see on the screen, it is at about 34,000 signatures, which means that it needs at least a few more thousands. It needs to reach 100,000 signatures to actually go as a proposal to the parliament. So if you are residing in the UK, and please, this is my advice and my recommendation and my humble request, that if you are residing in the UK by any chance, any of y'all, whether y'all are on student visa, dependent visa, or work visa, make sure that you sign this petition, just so that this can then get put forward to the parliament so that they can make a decision on this. Because let's acknowledge the fact that we have been working as healthcare professionals under really tremendous amount of work pressure, and it might be nice to sort of have a quicker ILR if that's your intention and you want to stay in the UK. So I'm going to leave the link for this in the description box below, and please do not forget to sign it, guys. Now, for those of y'all who are planning to come into the UK and study in the next year, that's in 2023 or 2024, what would you recommend, Nikita, is another question that I get asked, especially if y'all are going to be studying soon. So I would say that the UK government, like I said today, is only concerned regarding Suella Braverman's plans that she has proposed in the parliament. The UK parliament hasn't made any decisions regarding any of this. So I would say that if it is your plan to study in the UK and gain some valuable knowledge, do consider coming to the UK and sort of studying or being on the sort of work visa, especially if this is the right time, considering that there is a shortage of healthcare professionals, and many of y'all watching my channel are healthcare professionals indeed. Now, the second thing I want to also recommend is for students who have just come into the UK or have been issued a CAS, do not stress, because the PSW stands for you at 2 years. It's only going to influence people who are going to come from the next intake, which is September 2023, and the following intake after that. So if you are any previous intake, or if you just come in this January, you are not going to be affected by it. So please do not stress, and please do not be worried about this. But that's it for today's video. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, and let me know what you are thinking. But please, for any of y'all who are in the UK, do not forget to sign this petition, because we need to make it reach 100,000 right now. Take care, you guys. Bye.